Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to another episode of Geek Smack from Geekazine. Think magazine, put in a geek, boom, you got Geekazine. We are on episode number 277, and today we're going to talk about how Apple and Google dethroned Coca-Cola as the top global brands. Now, this is a very, very big situation, that thing that happened, because that shows us that things are changing, life's changing, and something like Coca-Cola might not be in too much anymore. But there's a chance that Coca-Cola can change. I got a Coke bottle right here. I'm going to use as an example here. But we're also going to talk about a lot of other tech news and everything else. Of course, this is the pre-show on Geekazine.com, where we kind of call it the vlog area of the pre-show, where I do things like I get into a pose for the picture like this, or maybe like this, or even like this. What did I just say? What? And then I've got the if you can do it with your hand, it's really hard to do. This is the V, this is the, you see how my finger shakes like that? This is the L, and then we have the O, and then we close this up and we curl that for the G, and that's the vlog. And we're on the vlog section. How you doing? Jeffrey Powers here, and I sound like Harry Carey right now. No, I've actually I've been trying my Morgan Freeman voice for a small amount of time, and I was really proud of iPad 365, I must say, and working on it. Just stupid little voices that are in my head. So. Hey, what's going on here over the little vlog section? First of all, thank you very much for coming over to youtube.com/Geekazine. You can subscribe in the show notes somewhere down there, but unless you're on, like Geekazine, you won't see that. You'll have to go to youtube.com/Geekazine and hit that subscribe button. Simple as that. Thank you very much for subscribing. Of course, you can go over to Geekazine.com, check out all the show notes, and check out all the articles. Got a few articles. I talk about the Epson XP411, and of course the monoprice mixer, which I just last week I actually used the monoprice mixer to mix this show. So what do you think about that? You can let me know. My Twitter handle is Geekazine. Think magazine, put in a geek. That's as simple as that. My email address is geekazine@gmail.com. Geekazine@gmail.com. You can feel free to email me there. Say, how's the weather in Madison, Wisconsin? Say, how you doing in Madison, Wisconsin? Say whatever you want to say in Madison, Wisconsin, and go from there. And we got a lot of cool stuff happening. And first of all, I wanted to just say I was very proud. iTunes iPad 365. Not only was it on the new and noteworthy section, with iPad 365 business. Now, for some of you that don't know, I have a website called iPad 365. In fact, let me call it up really quick. iPad 365 is where you can go for the iPad apps that I take a look at. This last week I did Duolingo, and here it is right here. I did Duolingo. We'll bring it like that. And we have many different apps. I've been doing this show for over a year, almost 2 years now. Evernote was the iOS Evernote version was before that. And then, of course, I talk about iOS and all the cool features on the new version. Pixakai, Candy Crush Saga, Documents for iPad, all that other stuff. That's over on iPad-365.com. And it's pretty cool. Lots of iPad apps. Well, apparently it made the new and noteworthy section of iTunes, and it made what's hot in iTunes. And I was just like, what? That's crazy. And then next thing I know, I was really happy. So I went up on Google Plus and I posted, hey, look, here's the picture. Here it is. So in fact, I can show it to you right here, which I'm really happy about. I mean, I've been up on new and noteworthy before. That's not a new one, but to be kind of in the mix of some of the other top rated shows. I mean, we're talking powerhouse shows that put a lot of of work into their shows. Not to say that I'm not putting a lot of work into my show, but it's more of a, how do you put it? It's like I'm I'm the only person that's doing this show. I mean, I don't have a staff or anything like that. Here it is right here. So it was a noteworthy and what's hot, right between iPad Today and the Daily Gizwiz, and I was super stoked for that. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, like I said, these are shows that have 3 or 4 different people working to put together a show, and here I am, just lonely old little soldier here, just trying to put together a show. And I made it on iTunes, new and noteworthy, and on the What's Hot. So, and that, of course, that's in the text section. So you can check that out there. Otherwise, hey, I can show you some of the pictures that I took. We did this at Twig this week in Google Glass. These are all Google Glass shots. I can show you. Me and Jennifer did some kayaking over the weekend. We got Jennifer kayaks, but we decided we're going to try tandem kayaking. So what we did is we went over to Brittingham Park. It's on Lake Monona side of Madison, and we did some kayaking. And here's some of the pictures. I did not take Google Glass out on the boat with me. I was a little bit concerned about it, but it was a great day. We had a lot of great pictures come out of that, and really, really excited from that. So you can check that all out. I got that up on my Google Plus page right there. I broke down. I joined Empire Avenue. Now, if you've never tried Empire Avenue, it's actually pretty interesting. You become a stock in your name or your brand, and it was really interesting. I like I said, I've been avoiding it for the longest time, and because I just didn't want to get sucked into another social network. And guess what happened when I logged in? Got sucked into another social network. So, but here, let me pull it up really quick. This is my profile. I'm literally at $64.98 a share, or whatever you want to call it. And you can find me, Jeffrey Powers, Geekazine is my stock symbol. It looks like I got a couple more people that joined up, but definitely check it all out. And I will do some investments on stocks, so I'm really excited to see what happens there with those stocks. So that's over at empireavenue.com. Pretty interesting stuff. Like I said, I never thought that I would be sucked into it, but I guess I did a little bit on there. So, does that mean I'm rich now that I'm $64 a share? Is there actual worth to that? Do people take that and say, hey, there's something there, or they're just playing a game? Do you treat it like the game? If you're on Empire Avenue, do you treat it like a game, or do you treat it like something that's a little bit more than just a game? I don't know. Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right. Last night we had another episode of This Week in Google Glass. Myself and Luke Wallace. We talked about XE10 and the GDK, the Google Development Kit that's coming out that is possibly going to really open up Google Glass. And we talked in depth about this. Really awesome episode. And I'm really glad that we did get a chance to talk about this. But XE10 is going to give, I guess it's going to give the right types of connections inside of glass that will let the GDK actually start to breathe life. So we'll see what happens there. I'm really excited about that. Well, and if you want to check it out, it's over at twig.tv, twigg.tv, or thisweekingoogle.glass.com. Hey, the one thing that we did do was we did it as a live hangout with question and answers. We had a couple question answers, and it was a great concept because I did that with the podcaster question and answer session, and it turned out pretty good. But when I did the Google Hangout for This Week in Google Glass, didn't turn out as great as I wanted it to. There's points in the show where it's kind of just blurry and stays blurry, because if you've ever done a hangout, when it switched from camera one to the next camera, there's a bit of a blur first and then it clears itself up. And usually it's pretty instantaneous, maybe like a second a blur and then it clears itself up. And I'd accept that, but what it does is it just stays blurry most of the time, and the beginning was completely cut off. so the graphics and stuff like that didn't even get shown. And the vocals were good, and I set it to studio quality, but the reality was it just wasn't that great. Now, I don't know if it was because of the fact that that was a bad internet connection to Google, or the fact that my MacBook Pro, which is the it's the 2011 model MacBook Pro, is starting to really show its power for doing that, because I had to have Wirecast on one side and then I had the Google Hangout on the other side, and it didn't work. Now, Wirecast has come out with a new version of Wirecast, and I can't wait to download it and try it. You got to wait for the upgrade, and that's like $150 for the upgrade, which an extra expense I didn't expect. But if it gives me more options, I'm all for it. So we'll see what happens there. But that's basically I think I'm taxing my computer way too much for all this stuff. And until I update my computer, maybe a new MacBook Pro, maybe a new Mac Pro. I am actually taking a look at Mac Pros. The new iMacs came out, like I said last week. I think I'd want a Mac Pro over an iMac, simply because of the fact I just don't like the all-in-one structure. I'd rather have the computer sitting to the corner and be able to decide which monitors I want to put into it. And then, of course, with 6 Thunderbolt ports, I could literally have 6 monitors plugged into that Mac Pro. So it's literally going to be about a $4,000 or $5,000 investment for the Mac Pro and just the base price. So we'll see what happens, and if I'll have the money on there to do so. All right, a couple other things here, and then we're going to get you into the show. CES planning is underway over at TPN.TV. Now, we are going to do something a little bit different at TPN.TV. I'm going to bring up the webpage. Of course, we got NAB coverage on here. But, of course, everything is going to be over at TPN.TV. Here it is, Tech Podcast Live. We are going to do something a little bit different this year. In the last couple of years, we relied on sponsors to take us to CES, which usually we ended up with enough, and we ended up with coming out with a couple dollars at the end of it, when it's all said and done. However, for the amount of work that we did and the amount of money that we ended up getting, it really didn't. It doesn't really pan out. So this year, we're still looking for sponsors. There's still going to be major sponsors on the show, but we're going to ask you guys, our viewers, our friends, to help us be sponsors, and be part of the show, and really help us take it to the next level. And that's so basically what we're going to do is we're going to work on a crowdfunding plan to get the show going, and so we can bring extra people in, maybe somebody to actually do some blogging rather than do some on-air talent. Somebody to do some post-production. They come to the show for a couple hours, they work the show for a couple hours, and then they'll turn around, they'll go back to the hotel, they'll take some of the video that we had, and they'll actually post-produce it. So by time we get back to our hotels, we can actually write a couple blog posts and post up what we saw at CES, and our content, it comes out just like that. And that's where it's all going to come into play, is becoming a bigger powerhouse at CES that we really want to be. And we've been doing the live stream for the last this is going to be the 4th year that we do the live stream. We moved over to the North Hall and from what it sounds like, we're going to be in the exact same spot, which I'm really happy for. I liked the spot we had 2 years ago. The only problem was it was way far in the back, and so we might have missed out on a lot of people. This one, it's right up in the taxi line. So, if you're just getting off the bus, getting to your booth, going to your booth, you can just come over to North Hall and do the interview and then go to your booth afterwards. So it's in a place that people can see, lots of traffic, really love it. But it takes a lot of money. Like, for instance, the internet connection just for that week for us, 6 megabyte connection, $6,000. Simple as that. And then they might even raised it. And that's so we can give you an HD quality stream, so you can watch during CES. That's basically how that works. So, we just need help. We need help. We need to be able to cover our airfare and cover our hotels, because that's basically what, when we walk away, we walk away with a check, but after it's all said and done, the return on investment not as great. And we want to change that. We want to flip that around, because we want to give you more stuff, and we want to give you the best content possible. And sometimes we just feel too rushed to do half of the stuff, and that's the biggest problem right there. So, anyway, things are going to start about October 15th. And you're going to see that and go from there for the next 60 days. Now, I'm spearheading that. Of course, Todd's doing the Podcaster Awards over at podcasterawards.com. Of course, you can always say, hey, Geek Smack, throw that in there. Day in Tech History, throw that in there. iPad 365, throw that in there. If you do, let me give you some categories here that you want to go to. Podcast Awards. Let me just pull it up here. Podcast Awards for Day in Tech History. What I need you to focus for Day in Tech History. Focus on education. When it comes to Geekazine or Geek Smack or iPad 365, actually do Geekazine. Geek Smack as best produced. There's a lot of other entertainment tech. You can put iPad 365 in tech. Keep in mind, tech is just like the biggest category. So everybody's going to be trying for tech. Day in Tech History, most important, put that into the education container and say, I want to nominate that for best educational podcast. So, and we'll see what happens there. Of course, we were nominated. Day in Tech History was nominated. Geekazine was nominated last year. So hopefully we'll get nominated again and go from there. All right, that does it for the vlog section. I've been babbling on for about 20 minutes here. Now, this is the cool thing. You're only seeing this on youtube.com/Geekazine. If you go over to Geekazine.com, I go straight into the show, a nice 30, 40-minute show, and go from there. I give you a quick rundown on what you would see over here. But you don't get as much power, as much cool content as over at youtube.com/Geekazine. I'd like to thank YouTube for letting me do this part and then going into the show. So what we're going to do, you're going to see this screen right here. And then I'm going to come back and say, actually, it's kind of weird. There I am again. It almost matches up. Anyway, you'll see that screen. I'll come back in and then we'll go right into the show. So don't run away. You can go get a drink or something like that. It'll take about a minute for that to happen. And then I'll go through what I just talked about and then go straight into the show notes, where we're going to talk about how Apple and Google both jumped over Coca-Cola, the #1 global brand. It's been #1 since this company has actually been doing this monitoring, and they just basically jumped over Coke and pushed them to #3. And we're going to talk about why that happened, how that happened, and a whole bunch more. Lots of tech news, so stick around, and we'll be right back. This is Geek Smack. You're getting into the show, so let's smack the geek out of you. Let's do it right now.
This is the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to the show we call Geek Smack, the show where we smack the geek out of you like Apple and Google smacked the heck out of Coke. What happened there? Coke was the #1 global brand for at least the last 10 years. And this year, all of a sudden, boom, Apple and Google just leapfrogged over them and said, hey, you're #3 now. And it's amazing. We've got a lot of great stuff. We're gonna talk about that. We're live over on youtube.com/Geekazine, recording every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Come join us if you want to. Of course, this week we're brought to you by our friends over at GoDaddy. We're brought to you by our friends over at Roku. And then, of course, the Day in Tech History, where there's a lot of tech history to be learned. All right, it is time to get the smack out of you, and let's talk. We'll talk about a lot of stuff: Dropbox, Facebook, Microsoft, everything. Let's do it now. Yeah, let's get this geek smacked out of you and do it now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, Jeffrey Powers here. Thank you very much for coming to the show. Welcome to the show we call Geek Smack, where we smack the geek out of you like new ways to brush your teeth. Brusha, brusha, brusha. We're going to show you how to brush your teeth a little bit differently. If you got a 3D printer, you can actually make that toothbrush as well. Hey, I do this live every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can join in, you can hook it up onto your laptop at work, at home, wherever, and just check it out. I do a little vlog section where I do a longer version of what I'm going to talk about right here. But basically, this is what I'm going to talk about on the live section. First of all, iPad 365, not only on new and noteworthy, but also what's hot. Really excited about that in iTunes in the technology section. So thank you for everybody that's downloaded the show over at ipad-365.com. And I think on Thursday, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a Kickstarter. Every now and then I'll do Kickstarter apps for iPad, and I'll do that episode on Thursday. I broke down and joined Empire Avenue. You can find me over at Empire Avenue. Just look for Geekazine or Jeffrey Powers. My stock has been soaring up. I'm at like $64 a share or something like that. I think I'm rich. I'm richer than I am in real life, that's for sure. So, spent the weekend relaxing. Me and Jennifer went out on the lake last few days of what we call the faux summer here in Madison, Wisconsin. And the leaves are starting to turn, but we got to do some kayaking. We did some tandem kayaking on Lake Monona. That was a lot of fun. Twig, this weekend, Google Glass happened last night. We talked about XE10 and the GDK that's coming and the possibilities that Google Glass will have after that. Really excited about that. Also did it on Google Hangouts question and answer session. We'll try it again a little bit later, but I got to work out some kinks, and I talk about that on the live show. You can, on the vlog part. You can hop over there to find out all the details. I also talk about our CES planning. Now, this is important. I'll go a little bit into detail on this. We are planning a crowdfunding event. It's going to start on October 15th. We're going to do a 60-day campaign to get some money to help bring people to CES so it doesn't come out of our pockets. By the end of the show, we're completely exhausted. We give 150% to the show, and at the end of the day, the checks the return on investment just wasn't there. We've got to pay for a $6,000 internet connection. We've got to pay for the spot that we're in, and of course, all the shipping, getting people out there, hotels, getting everything done so we can get you the best content possible during the live stream. So we're looking for sponsors, but we'll have a crowdfunding, and I'll go into more detail next week as things start to really shape up on that. Finally, there was one more thing, and I completely forgot about it. But let's just move on from there. Let's get into your Tech Smack for this week. And of course, this week's Tech Smack is brought to you by our friends over at GoDaddy.com. You know, when they changed gears a couple weeks ago, it was amazing to see how they really started to work with small medium businesses. Now, if you're a small medium business that needs a website, that needs a domain name, that needs SSL certificates and all that good web stuff, they're really starting to focus on these companies, and they've got a lot of great offers out there, and going from there. Our offer is Wowazine. Think magazine, put in a Wowazine, and you're going to get 35% off your order, whether it be a domain, whether it be web hosting, shared hosting. It's really awesome to share host. Everything Geekazine is on shared hosting. And I did have a small little problem last week, and I called up customer service, and I said, hey, I've got this problem where my sites are not loading. And they said, well, they're loading perfectly for me. Now, if you ever have had a website, you know that there's a West Coast, there's an East Coast, and there's a Midwest, and actually even a Southern now. And if they're in one of the other areas and you're in the area that it doesn't work, it won't work for you, but it'll work for them. but they did find ways to resolve it. They did find the problem, and they did work on fixing it. So, and it turned out to be, just a node needed to be refreshed in the Midwest, and I was back up and running. But I was also assured that people could watch my shows and go to my websites on the West Coast, on the East Coast, in the South as well. So it was just affecting a small group, and it wasn't really a GoDaddy issue, but they resolved it nonetheless. So that's the type of customer service that you get with GoDaddy. So check it out. Remember that code Wowazine. Of course, that helps me keep my lights on over here at Geekazine, and go from there. All right, let's get into the show for this week, and we're going to start over at The Verge. John McAfee wants to sell you a gadget that ends up blocking certain things. He's, John McAfee, of course, he had that issue a few months ago where he was accused of shooting his neighbor, and I'm not exactly sure how that all turned out. I'm guessing it turned out okay. And then he started making all these weird videos. But one of those things that he decided he wanted to do is he's creating a box that basically you tie your phone. It's called Decentral. And what you do is you tie your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop to this DMZ, I guess you could call it. And the only thing that the NSA can record is anything going out of the box to the internet provider. So you could do a lot of work inside, and the NSA would have no idea. You can encrypt emails from the inside, and all they can see is an encrypted email. So if you're really concerned about this, he's really working. It sounds like he's got a prototype in the works or almost done, and he's getting ready to get some investors so he can go from there. It's looking to be about $100 price point, and I think this would be great for a small business that does not have the type of infrastructure that would have a DMZ. So this would probably be a good box to not only keep NSA out, but also keep hackers from going. Now it's not a hacker box that you can't. If you hack into it, that's a different story as opposed to a DMZ. And I am just kind of generalizing the term DMZ in this case, but it definitely will help you keep some of your information safe. So interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. And it's called Decentralized Network, or Decentral is the name of the box. And once it starts coming out, we'll keep you abreast of that. Sub $100. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's move on from there. Dropbox now automatically saving screenshots to your photos. If there's anything in the clipboard, Dropbox will pull it and put it into a special folder. I think you can opt out of that option. So if you've got like the free Dropbox and you don't want to have all these screen shares in your Dropbox, you can turn that off. But beginning today, all screenshots you take on the computer will automatically be saved to a Dropbox account. Do you like that? Do you like the fact that a company like Dropbox will actually turn around and just take your screenshots and put it into a folder without even asking you? Well, maybe they're asking you. I don't know. I haven't really tried it yet, but let me know. You can Twitter me over at Geekazine. Geekazine@gmail.com is the email address. This Think Magazine put in a geek. And then, of course, the hotline, 608-205-4378. I'd like to thank, I think his name was Fred. No, Frank. Frank, that's right. It's Frank. He did call on last week's show and talk about a couple points. So thanks to Frank for giving me a call there. But yeah, check it out and let me know what you think about this, and we'll go from there. All right, let's move on from there. Let's go over to Apple, over to Giga here. Apple is actually, there was a class action suit. If you had an iPad that had 3G on it, like the first version of iPad, you remember they had that when Steve Jobs announced it. He also said AT&T was coming in with this unlimited service. You put in the SIM card, you'll be able to do unlimited surfing on your iPad. And then a couple months later, all of a sudden they just said, well, no, we can't do unlimited. AT&T said we can't do unlimited anymore. So they changed the service on there, and everybody got upset. And of course, lawyers got involved, and they put together a class action lawsuit. Now, What happened was they out of this class action lawsuit, anybody that had that service before June of 2010 and had the unlimited plan for the iPad 3G tablet can get $40 back. Plus, Apple's giving $40 back, and AT&T will get a $20 a month discount on the carrier for 5 GB monthly plan for up to a year. So, whatever the monthly plan is for 5 GB a month, you'll get $20 off a month if you were part of that class action suit. So, if you are, check that all out. It's over at gigaom.com. We'll have the link in the show notes over at Geekazine. You can check it out there. Did you have an iPad 3G first generation iPad? Did you go for that unlimited plan? Let me know if you're going to be part of this class action lawsuit. If you're going to take your money, if not, give it to me. Just throw it to me via PayPal. I'll take it. I'm happy. I need to buy myself a new Mac Pro anyway, or an iMac or something like that. Something to really beef up my studio here. So wouldn't mind that. But anyway, we'll move on from there. Let's go over to all things D. AT&T, speaking of AT&T, they're beginning to spread their gigabit fiber in Austin, Texas. Now you're saying, well, why Austin? Why? Because Austin is becoming kind of like a second or third Silicon. I don't want to say the second Silicon Valley, but Austin definitely has got a startup alley to it. And a lot of companies are going to Austin. In fact, I was just looking at a company that was in San Francisco and Austin. And of course, lots of startups. South by Southwest, their interactive section, lots of startups there. So that's making a big move in when it comes to startups. So AT&T has decided to put gigabit fiber to compete with Google's fiber and go from there. Now, don't know all the details on this. All we know is that AT&T is going to begin offering service in some areas of Austin by December. And we don't know if there's going to be any caps on it or anything like that. But if you want to read more, go over to All Things D, where we have the article linked to, and you can check it out over there. I got to do one thing here. Let me go back over here and pull up a couple more articles. And let's continue on. Let's go over to Ars Technica. There is this company called Freedom Pop. And they came out earlier this year. We talked about them already. And basically, it's no contract. They had a Wi-Fi device. And they now have a phone. And now you can actually get a phone. If you don't use your phone as much as a lot of other people do, excuse me, you can now get a no contract, no fee, 500 megabyte smartphone. You'll get 500 megabytes of data transfer, perfect for emails and quick Facebooking and stuff like that. And then like 200 minutes of talk time and 500 text messages for free. Absolutely free. You pay for the phone. It's like $99 for the phone, but everything else is free. Now, if you go over your 500 megabyte limit, you'll actually have to pay some extra fees. It's really not that much. Let me see what it is. But the phone is an Android HTC Evo, which not a bad phone. It's a refurbished phone, so don't expect it to be brand spanking new. Don't expect it to be quad-core processor or anything like that. It's definitely going to have something to it. And it'll have Android 4.0 sometime after their launch. You also have usage tiers. $10.99 a month will provide unlimited voice and texting. $500 megabyte cap. $7.99 per month will provide 500 minutes. If you want to go past 500 megabytes, it's $10 per gigabyte. Per gigabyte. So this is actually pretty low cost if you think about it, because how many people hit 2 gigabytes worth of data usage on their smartphone? I'm connected to so many Wi-Fi networks now. It doesn't happen for me that much. And of course, I'm not in like a New York or a Boston or a San Francisco where probably 99% of people's Wi-Fis, including coffee shops, have some sort of Wi-Fi password to them and don't let everybody on to their Wi-Fi networks. And of course, in Madison, that's starting to change as well. So, but this is interesting. You could actually I could get this phone. It's absolutely free for the most part. And then if I go over in usage, I just pay $10 per gigabyte or $8, and all of a sudden I just got a $20 phone bill as opposed to a $125 phone bill. And I can't do any tethering or anything like that, so I don't know how Google Glass will work on there, but we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely interested. I might take a look at this. If you want to read the article, it's over at Ars Technica. We got the link in the show notes. Would you actually leave AT&T and Verizon for a free plan like Freedom Pop? It's a big question, especially since AT&T now has moved their talk. Then they know that people aren't talking on the phone as much as they are texting, so their plans revolve around data usage and texting. And of course, the talk time that's now free almost in most cases. So, would you actually switch to a phone like that and go from there? Let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right. Microsoft last night officially pulled the plug on MSN TV. Of course, MSN TV used to be Web TV back in 1996 when it started. I remember seeing my first Web TV when I went up north, and we did some. This was pre 9/11. We went up to Wausau, Wisconsin, and we ate at the steakhouse, and it was a really cool steakhouse. It was owned by two brothers, but they were in their 70s, so I'm guessing that this place doesn't exist anymore. And one of the wives was sitting there just typing away on the web TV, and that was my first experience with web TV. And the idea was it was supposed to become like a thin client, a dumb terminal. So basically, it would collect the web page, put it together, and then of course a screenshot would show up on the screen rather than the actual web page. So it was very interesting. It was a great concept. They couldn't, when they were web TV, they really couldn't get everything going on it. So they decided, okay, we're going to sell to Microsoft because they want it. Microsoft bought it. And actually, in all reality, even though web TV is going, or I'm sorry, MSN TV is going away, the concept is still in a lot of your devices. If you've got some sort of DVR box, some sort of cable box, if you've got an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, it's got that same technology as MSN TV had in it, or Web TV back then. So it was a great purchase for Microsoft, and pretty interesting stuff there. So if you want to read more, I got the link over at Engadget.com. All right, let's move on from there. We're going to go over to Bloomberg. Google is facing a fine for not complying with French privacy demands. Basically, the French said that there were some privacy issues in their privacy policy they wanted to have fixed up, and Google did not fix it, make the changes, and so they will be forced to pay some fines. I think the fines don't go over $203,000. Excuse me. So it was about 150,000 euros. Google will have to take a look at that. They'll have to make the privacy change, or else they'll just continue to get fined. So, but if you want to read more on that, go over to Bloomberg.com for that article. All right, last article of the TechSmack era, and we'll get you into the GeekSmack side. And then, of course, we'll talk about Apple and Google and Coke. We've brushed our teeth same way every single time. Toothbrush, put a little bit of toothpaste on, go back and forth, brush, that type of thing. What if somebody came up with a brand new toothbrush that would change the game? And people have tried. I mean, they've had the water picks, they've had the sonic brushes and stuff like that. But what about this brush? 3D printer brush. Check this out. This is a toothbrush, and it's shaped, it's shaped to your mouth. And what happens is you get it 3D printed. It prints up. Of course, it's got all the bristles on it. And it's just, the ring, you put it in your mouth like you would a mouth guard. And then you'd have toothpaste or whatever on the bristles. And then you'd put it in your mouth, and then you'd move your jaw around, up and down, all around, for 6 seconds. And then you rinse and spit and you're done. Or you can do it another 6 seconds, get it a little bit cleaner, and then you're done. That's what this toothbrush is all about. Totally 3D printed. So I don't know if that's going to be all open source or whatnot. It's called the Blizzadent toothbrush. And they got a video on that. I've got the link to QZ.com. I'll have the link in the show notes. You can check that out. I want one of these two. I want to try one of these toothbrushes, but in order to do it, you've got to get a 3D model of your inside of the mouth, which dentists are starting to do nowadays. And then they go and have that 3D printed and go from there. I don't think there was a price on this. Let me scan through this article really quick. I'm pretty sure I didn't see a price on this just yet. But if the most expensive part is literally going to get your mouth scanned, so the Blizzardent can be shaped to your mouth. And I'm guessing they might even have some toothbrushes that are going to be kind of you figure out your shape. It'll have like number 1, number 2, number 3, or something like that, and then something really close you can do that for. But for the most part, this is really cool. It's a new way to brush your teeth. And that's over at QZ.com. And that does it for the tech side of Tech Smack. What'd you think about that? Are you gonna take a look at that toothbrush? Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com is the email address, and then the hotline is 608-205-4378. All right, when we come back, we're gonna have a lot more tech news, and then we're gonna talk about Apple taking the number 1 spot from Coke, Google taking the number 1 spot from Coke. Coke number 3 hasn't happened as far as we can go back. And we're going to talk about why that happened and how that happened. And we'll do that next. You're watching Geek Smack on YouTube over at youtube.com/Geekazine or Geekazine.com. We'll be right back. All right, and this episode, as part of Geek Smack, is brought to you by my other website called Day in Tech History over at www.dayintechhistory, where you can find out all the cool tech history that you can just shake with a stick if you want to. I redid the website, so it's got the same theme as Geekazine. You can go over there and check it out. But of course, on October 1st of 1979, Atari employees decided to, hey, let's go away and let's turn around and create Activision. Of course, Atari was going on their last legs, and so they wanted to do something new. So Activision was born. 4 ex-Atari game designers, David Crane, Larry Kaplan, Alan Miller, and Bob Whitehead. They started with $700,000. And that's over at dayintechhistory.com. If you want to check that all out, go over there and you'll get some cool stuff. I got a little frog in my throat, and I do apologize. Let me clear my throat really quick. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Hey, let's get into. I'm going to change this really quick because I was going to do this. Let me do this really quick. Let's do your Geekedia of the week. All right, this week, of course, we saw the final to Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad's over. It's done. And it was a great run. I love the show. The last episode, it had resolution, and I loved where it went. Of course, it also sets up for the Bob Odenkirk prequel called Better Call Saul. And there's also other possibilities. But there was a lot of finalization, and I'm not going to, a lot of people still haven't watched it yet. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys. But if you want to check it out, the complete series, Ultraviolet digital copy, Blu-ray, with Bryan Cranston, Anna Gunn, of Breaking Bad, is over on Amazon. I'm going to have a link in the show notes. If you click on the link, of course, that helps me keep the lights on. I thank you very much. It's also 30% off. That's a $90 savings over at Amazon.com. It's the full complete thing. It's really cool because it's in this barrel, like where Walt kept the money, and of course you get a whole bunch of extras with it. And of course free shipping if you're a Prime member. I don't know if you get 2-day Prime on that. This one doesn't look like they have it, but I will link to there and you can check it out there. That's over at Amazon.com. That's the Geekedia of the week. All right, let's move on. Let's go over to PCWorld.com. Facebook has widened their graph search. They're including posts. They're including status updates. Now you're thinking to yourself, do I really need a status update or a post in a search? Actually, I did. A couple days ago, I was looking for a specific post, and I was trying to do a search, and I couldn't find anything. So now I can go in and I can say, maybe even something that I said. Somebody just needs clarification on something. I can do a search on that and say, yeah, back on September 1st, I said this, and then put it into the post. So there's a lot of positive, there's a lot of negative to it. Like, for instance, somebody can be searching for posts that say, I don't know, Apple computers, and then they try and sell you an Apple computer. But there's also points where you can find out how many times you said Apple computers. There's going to be new websites that'll pop up that'll give you stats that you'll never expect off of there. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to turn around and be used, and hopefully it'll be used positively, not negatively. So the pages are now searched. You can post from anything from the beginning of time, I guess, and you can find photo captions, check-ins, comments, and status updates. So if you want to try it out, go over to your Facebook and find out. Of course, if you want to read the article, go over to PCWorld.com. I'll have the link in the show notes. What do you think? Do you think that that's going to hurt or help privacy in Facebook? Let me know by twittering me at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right, let's go over to PCMag.com. Delta pilots are getting a little treat. They're getting tablets. Now, we talked about how some pilots in certain airlines were actually getting iPads. That was about a year ago we talked about that. Well, now Delta has said, well, we're pairing up with Microsoft and getting Surface tablets to certain airline pilots. Anybody that's flying a Boeing 757 or Boeing 767 fleet, any captain and the crew on there is going to get a Surface 2 tablets. About 11,000 pilots to basically remove the paper out of the cockpit. Because if you've ever been in a cockpit, you'll know that they've got their flight charts and it's actually sitting in tubes on the side. And they would have to pull them out, and it'd be like, just like if you pulled a map out in a car while somebody's driving and could get in the way, and just it's gone. Now you just have the Surface tablet and you say, okay, here's what we need to do. This is how we need to map. And it could even talk back and forth with air officials, so they could they can possibly even plot out problems before they happen. So interesting stuff. We'll see what happens. Of course, it's going to reduce a pilot's flight bag immensely. And I'm pretty sure that most of the 11,000 pilots will be really happy on that. I'll have to ask Jack about this Surface tablet, because of course Jack, being one of our CES staff, he was a pilot for many years, and I'm kind of curious what his take is on that. So I'll check with him and I'll let you guys know. In the meantime, if you want to go over to PCMag.com, you can check out this article that we have there. Of course, it's in the show notes. All right, Mashable has announced YouTube. There we go. Mashable has announced YouTube Music Awards show. There are going to be 8 awards for YouTube Music Awards. It's going to happen mid-October, or they're going to announce mid-October. It's going to air on November 3rd. Of course, lots of different video awards. I'm guessing. I think that they're going to be doing major artists, but I bet you there's also going to be some up-and-comers, some artists that you've never heard of before that got their start simply on YouTube. So, and it also sets a precedence for YouTube to start doing awards. Maybe down the road I'll be nominated for a YouTube award, a YouTubian, YouTuber, TubiTube. I don't know. That would be kind of cool to have YouTube awards sitting on my shelf. What do you think? Do you think that this is a great idea? Do you think that's just a ploy? Is YouTube going the right direction? Should they not be in awards ceremonies? Let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. The link is over at mashable.com. couple more articles to you, and then we're going to talk about Apple and Google overlapping Coke. That's pretty big. It literally is very big on how they just did that. So, and we're going to talk about why, and we'll do that in a minute. And first of all, we're going to talk about GoPro. Now, those are those little cameras that people have on top of their heads, or, not Google Glass, but, some of them are on their cars. If you see like a new decked out car, a lowrider or something like that, you'll look, and there most of the time there's a GoPro sitting on the hood or on the roof. Well, now the new GoPro models are coming out. They're not totally out yet, but they've been announced. They're smaller, and they have 30% more battery life, and they hold more content too. So it's the Hero 3 Plus is the name of the Hero of this GoPro model. It's going to be about $400. It'll have a camera body that's 20% smaller, battery life that's 30% longer, like I said, Wi-Fi that's 4 times faster. So if you hook it up to your device, you can actually watch what's going on and control there. And an automatic low light mode to change the frame rate. So, and of course, it also has some slow motion. I think it's like 120 frames per second in a lower, no, actually in 720p now. So 1080p is 60 frames per second. 720p is 120 frames per second. So you can do some slow motion, not major slow motion, but some good slow motion, kind of like what an iPhone does for their slow motion. So that's pretty cool there. If you want to check out more, go over to news.cnet.com. That's the GoPro Hero 3 Plus. Moving from there to zdnet.com, Google's launched the Web Designer app for creating animated HTML5 ads. Now, basically, if you go to a website, like we'll go to the ZDNet website, and you'll see an ad for IBM Business on the side there, and that's usually a served ad. So they basically put a script in, and that pushes the ad from there. Well, what if you were to create ads yourself, and instead of them being ads, they're little interactive things. They don't need to be ads. They could be a little space game where you're shooting down aliens. They could be a just fun little puzzle or something like that to put on your website. So, and then of course you can kind of mix an ad into there, or something else. So that's what this designer is all about. You create, it gives you all the little different ad types, and then you create via HTML5 your ad, and then you can put it on your website. So, and I'm going to try and do that. I did a small little one where I had like a little ship flying from one side of the screen to the other. And maybe I'll do that with Geek Smack, maybe take the intros or something like that. Or me talking. I could take this video right here and put it into an ad and actually compress it so it's a very low bit rate. And then you could actually see me talking while it's in the ad. And then have a little interactiveness come to it. So lots of different things you can do with that. So if you're a web designer, this is awesome. You check it out. It's over at zdnet.com was the article. Download it. Absolutely free. Awesome little program so far. We'll see how it works. All right, let's go on from there. Last article of the day. We're over at theconsumerist.com. This is really cool. YouTube's great. There are certain points in time where YouTube all of a sudden just they just throw copyright laws at you. And you don't know, you read fair use, when that can be used. Bottom line is, if you monetize anything, fair use kind of gets thrown out the window. But let's say you're just putting, like, every month I do our social media breakfast. I put it up on their YouTube. And let's say one of the presentations, somebody decides to put a Jay-Z song or a Justin Bieber song, God knows why, or something like that. There's points worth fair use, and that's what happens here. There's a Harvard law professor. He had his name's Lawrence Lessig. He basically had a keynote where he talked and showed a little video, which then featured a song from the a French band called Phoenix. And so YouTube they didn't notice it until, I guess, this year when they decided, well, we've got to take down this video. And he came back and he said, hey, Section 107 of the Copyright Act permits fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. Now, every now and then, which is why I don't show or play too much music on Geekazine and Geek Smack, every now and then one of my Geek Smack episodes gets hit for copyright content. And I say fair use, and they say no, that's not acceptable anymore. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know the limits of fair use. And of course, I monetize my videos, so maybe that just throws that all out the window. And of course, there's videos that I don't monetize because I want you to watch it because it's important. And there was actually one video that I didn't monetize at all, and YouTube did do that, and I ended up just chopping out I just chopped out the middle part and then pushed it up from there. So interesting stuff. If you want to check this out, it's over at theconsumerist.com. And I'm going to check in a little bit more on this because I wonder if there are some videos that I can put back onto my YouTube that people can watch that just bring people over to subscribe to my YouTube channel. No monetization to it. And go from there. But interesting stuff. I'll have to look into that a little bit further. But if you have any questions on that, feel free to Twitter me over at Geekazine. Geekazine@gmail.com is the email address, and 608-205-4378 is the phone number. And you can call at any time. We will be right back, and we're going to talk about Apple, Google, booming out Coke as the number one global brand. And we're going to show you why, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We will be right back. This is Geek Smack on Geekazine. It's more than just 750 channels that the Roku can offer that gives you all that content. Each channel can have sub-channels in it, so you can have tens of thousands of hours of video watching and game playing out of your Roku, and prices only start at $49.99. Of course, the Roku 3 for $99.99, and of course you can get the games, you get the game remote as well, and then the privacy mode where you can plug in your headphones right in the remote. That's perfect for when your partner is sleeping, but you want to watch something on TV. Lots of great stuff, from Angry Birds to Amazon to Hulu, and of course the Tech Podcast channel. Let me show you this really quick. This is how you get to some of the content from Geekazine on the Tech Podcast channel. You just go into the Tech Podcast video, and you're going to go into Tech News, and you're going to find like the special events, iPad 365, Geek Smack, and a whole bunch more. A lot of other tech podcast shows right on that Roku for you, right at your fingertips, right through the remote. And then, of course, you can get your Netflix, you can get your Amazon, you can get your Hulu just as easy, and many more channels. PBS, we've got Redbox Instant, TV Guide, Sci-Fi Channel, and much more. Check it out. It's all over at Roku. Remember, geekazine.com/Roku. Of course, that helps me keep the lights on for all my shows. Thank you very much. And go over where streaming is made simple. If you looked at the top global brands year after year, you'd find that Coke was dominating at number one. In fact, it's never been anything but number one since they've been actually monitoring that. However, this last week, Interbrand posted the top 100 global brands, and for the first time, Coke took a back seat to not only Apple, but also Google. Apple rose 28% to 98 million, and Google rose 34% to 93 million, while Coca-Cola only rose 2% to 79 million. Following Coke were once again the old second place at IBM and third place Microsoft. And rounding off the top 10 was McDonald's, Samsung, Intel, and Toyota. The leapfrog actually started about a year ago, when Apple took the number 2 spot and Google took the number 4 spot. Apple rose 129% in global sales, which is a pretty big jump for any company. Back in 2002, Apple was hovering around 50th place, while Google was actually nowhere to be found at the time. They basically jumped up the list very quickly. So what made this difference? basically innovation. Apple and Google are now building new categories that of easier to use computers. So you may argue that the statement that I said, because tablets were long before 2010, smartphones were long before 2007. However, they weren't as easy to use as today's sensitive touch devices. I loved my HTC 8125, and I loved my iPad before that, and I loved my Palm 5 before that. But these new devices spawned more easier to use computer devices. Apple stated that the App Store, which became Apple started the App Store, which became duplicated by many. Putting apps into more than just a computer seemed to be the pipe dream back in 2004. Now we have them in TVs, we have them in appliances, we have them in a whole bunch. We have them in our cars. Coke is Coke. Although Coke has many different versions, there's no newer innovations to Coke anywhere to be found, because they've already tried that and kind of failed. Further, people are more health conscious and are starting to replace one bottle of Coke with 16 ounces of water. I do it myself. There's my Coke, there's my water. I'm not drinking 2 or 3 Cokes at a time. Now, Coke stayed ahead of the curve, even in 2010 when beverages as a whole dropped over 6 million in global sales. Does this mean that Coca-Cola is being number one? Not necessarily. People will still technically purchase Coke products more than iPads or Google Glass. It might be a fact that Coke next year will jump over Apple and Google, and then the next year, Apple and Google will jump back into number one position. You never know. It may even take a few years for Coke to get back to number one, but with some thought and some innovation in the beverage sector, I think that it could actually happen. In the meantime, the big question is if Apple can stay number one. A lot of people are saying that Apple's losing its innovative edge. Google's doing a lot more with the Chromecast, with the Google Glass, and of course their Android smartphone. If Google can knock them out in the next year, or even another company like Samsung can rise to become the underdog story, what does that mean for Apple? What does that mean for Coke? What about McDonald's or Microsoft? They won't be on the number one spot anymore. It's interesting to see that and how they work together. Like, for instance, with McDonald's, McDonald's has Coke. So with Coke being number one, McDonald's being number 5, that's a pretty good win for both companies, right? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Apple's gonna stay at number one? Is it something that I might not understand how they got there by creating a new category in PCs? I don't know. Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. And you can always call me at the hotline, 608-205-4378. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, that does it for this episode of Geek Smack. What'd you think? Did you like it? Let me know. If you're over on youtube.com/Geekazine, remember to like and remember to subscribe. The more subscribers I have, the more content I can push out to you. And of course, if there's anything that you want me to show, if you've got any products I can review on the special media feed. CES action coming very soon. We're ramping it up. It's going to get hot and heavy really soon. Watch out for that Kickstarter. And that's it. We'll see you next time when we smack the geek out of you once again next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time for the live version. And of course, you can watch it anytime in audio or video format afterwards. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you next time. You guys geek out and take care. And that does it for the actual show and the live show over at youtube.com/Geekazine. Of course, I'll try and have the live sections up on Geekazine.com so you can watch it live as it goes. And then once I put up the post, you can watch it there. But if you have any questions, feel free to Twitter me over at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right, we will be back next week. Thanks a lot for watching live. I know I had a few people watching there. Thanks again. You guys rock. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Geek Smack.